Hi guys, my name is Deepak. I'm currently a third year BTech student at IITK and my branch is Biological Sciences and Bioengineering. So at the end of my second year, I did a research internship in France. It was a 2-month summer internship, and the institute where I did it was INRA. So INRA is basically a group of research centers that are situated throughout France, and I did my internship in one of them. The topic of my research internship was studying how the presence of phage DNA in certain bacterial species changes the composition of their outermost membrane, the lipid composition of their outermost membrane, and that ultimately might make them more resistant to antibiotics. So that was the topic of my research. So coming to the question in hand, so the first question that I've been assigned is talking about how an individual can secure a foreign research internship. So the first thing we need to realize is that securing a foreign research internship does break some pattern from the things that we are used to, in the sense that if you had to secure an SPO internship, let's say at the end of your second year in the internship season, the work done would be different, because in order to secure a more conventional internship, you can work for a shorter period of time. You can do lots of work for a shorter period of time and secure the internship. Whereas for a research internship, you need to be more continuous and spread your work through a longer period of time. So, because the thing that internship program or something looks for is how you had a particular interest and how exactly did you pursue it. I mean, they're not really looking for individuals who are experts in the field. They just want to see that the student has tried to explore their research interest, and that must be substantiated with examples. So what exactly are the factors which would go into your profile when a program would select you, the factor based on which the program would select you. So the first factor that comes is your research experience. So for that, I would say IIT Kanpur does have many labs. As far as BSB is concerned, it does have many labs in which you can gain this research experience. But the one thing that I want to focus on is that what individuals do is, like, they don't really like the work that is going on in one particular lab, and then they switch the lab too often. So for that, I'd like to say that even if there is a particular field lab that you work in and you don't find the work it does not meet your expectations, but I would still say that you should try and stick through more of the mundane activities that are involved in the research of the lab, because that also conveys to the people who view your profile for a research internship that you have the ability to stick to one particular task in hand, and you're not always jumping from here to there. And the other factor that goes into this is the letter of recommendation that you would receive from the prof. So a letter of recommendation from a prof who you have worked with for, let's say, a span of a year is far more valuable than a prof with whom you worked for, let's say, 3 or 4 months. So that is something which is really important, trying to stick to a particular lab for a longer period of time. Then the other factor that goes in is your CPI. So most research programs, the good research programs, what they have is internship programs. They have a CPI cutoff. So yes, CPI does matter. You need to have a CPI above a certain level, but even if your CPI just crosses that particular level and you have good research experience to back it up, it won't be a factor. So CPI is more of a cutoff factor, because it does not show the work. It's not the only factor that conveys your interest in that particular field. And lastly, the important thing is being able to put all this in the form of a story which shows sort of your journey, how you had a particular interest, you explored those interests, and then you substantiate them with examples, and then you can put all this thing in a story in the form of an SOP, which tries to convey to the people that you had this interest and then you conveyed it. So these are the major factors that go into this. And another topic that I'd like to discuss in this video is what exactly do you have to have an interest in your particular field. So the thing is, if somebody comes up to me and asks me, am I really very interested in BSB? Yes, BSB does present many interesting topics to work on, but it's more about the fact that that an individual likes to learn new things, and then he wants to apply those things in his own fashion, in his own manner, see whether he can pick up information from multiple areas and then use it to create something new. And as I've talked to many people from postdocs and PhDs who are doing their postdocs and PhDs, and you realize that the boundaries of subjects, biological sciences, mathematics, computation, all these become really fuzzy when you go ahead for your PhD and postdocs or maybe higher studies. So it's important to realize that you might not find what you're doing right now very interesting, but you're interested in learning new things. So going ahead if you try and pursue higher studies in the future, you'd get many opportunities to switch fields and learn new things. And I think that is the important message here. So the other question that I have in hand is about direct employment, and do we need MTech for a good core job? So the thing is, just after your BTech, there is not enough work that you have done, especially in the core department. And if you really want to go for a core job, it's really hard to get a really high paying job in the core department just after your BTech. So if you're really interested in the subject and you probably want to do a job too, MTech is probably the right step, as it helps you decide whether you want to do this research full time, probably for a PhD, or you just want to go for a core job, and it does make you eligible for a really good core job. So yes, MTech is really necessary. And lastly, as far as my experience goes, the work experience that I had during my internship, I think it was a really cool experience because I got access to techniques and instruments that I'd never seen before in the institute, and it was a really learning experience in terms of science and also in terms of life, because when you go to a new place and you sort of have to do everything on your own, and that's an experience which does give you a really strong sense of independence, and you realize you can do things on your own. So overall, yes, the experience is very nice, and it to a large extent does help. It does tell you whether you want to do, because whether you are ready to do more of the mundane tasks that are involved in the research in order to get that final result. And because research is not just about quick discoveries every day, there is a lot of mundane tasks that goes into it, and so you realize whether you as an individual can go through those cycles or not. So yes, I think the experience was really nice, and if somebody does want to see whether they really want to do research or not, a foreign research internship does help you realize that. So that's it, guys. Bye.